I still remember his smile that night. It was real. Not the usual half-hearted kind he gave out of habit. It was warm, genuine, like he finally saw me again. And I held on to that smile like it was a lifeline. But deep down, I knew it wasn't mine to keep. I thought I was doing something special, something bold, something he'd never forget. And he didn't. But not for the reasons I told myself. It was his birthday, 40 years old. He said he didn't want a party, didn't want a fuss. Just dinner at home. Simple, quiet. But I wanted more. I needed more. Not for him, if I'm being honest, but for me. I was tired. Tired of feeling alone while lying next to someone every night. Tired of being touched without being felt. Tired of conversations that stayed shallow and glances that went right through me. Tired of giving and never being seen. So I made a choice. I thought it was harmless. A surprise. An experience. A little escape from the routine we'd both been drowning in. But it wasn't harmless. I hired someone. A professional. Someone who knew how to create a moment. Someone who made me feel something again before I even realized how numb I'd become. I told myself it was a gift for him. That it was spontaneous. Fun. A little out there, sure, but exciting. But the truth is, I didn't do it for him. I did it because I wanted to feel wanted again. Desired. Seen. He doesn't know. Not about the hotel. Not about the hours before dinner. Not about the person I became that day. And maybe he never will. But I do. And I carry it with me. Every single day. I see his smile in my mind and feel the weight of what I did pressing into my chest like it's trying to keep me from breathing. Was it a gift? Was it betrayal? I still don't know. But what I do know is, it changed everything. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold so you don't miss what happens when secrets unravel in the most unexpected ways. My name's Emily. I'm 38 years old. Been married for 14. And most days, it feels like I'm invisible. Mark, my husband, is a good man. He works hard. Pays the bills. Doesn't drink, doesn't cheat, doesn't yell. On paper, he's the kind of man anyone would be lucky to have. But love isn't paperwork. And for the past few years, I felt like we were sharing a house, not a life. He wakes up before me. Leaves for work before the sun rises. Comes home after dark. Eats in silence. Checks his phone. Falls asleep watching some old show we've both seen 100 times. Repeat. He says he's just tired. That work is crazy. That it'll calm down soon. But it never does. And somewhere in that never-ending routine, I lost him. Or maybe, we lost each other. I still remember the early days. We were that couple, always touching, always laughing, always making plans. We used to talk until 2 in the morning about dreams, about kids, about everything and nothing. I used to wake up just to feel him breathing beside me. Now he rolls away in his sleep. And I lay there, staring at the ceiling, wondering what happened to us. We have 2 kids. Teenagers. They're out more than they're in these days. Friends, school, sports, parties. They've got their own lives. And honestly, I don't blame them. The house is quiet. Too quiet. You could hear a thought echo. Most evenings, it's just me and Mark, sitting in the same room but feeling miles apart. I cook dinner. He eats it. He thanks me, politely, like a stranger might. We barely talk. I ask how his day was. He shrugs, says, same as always. And I nod like that's enough. But it's not. It hasn't been for a long time. He used to look at me like I was the most beautiful thing in the world. Now, he looks past me. Or worse, through me. I try. I do. I wear the lipstick he used to love. I put on the perfume he bought me for our anniversary 2 years ago. I light candles during dinner just to pretend we're still us. But none of it lands. He touches his phone more than he touches me. Scrolls for hours. News. Work. Sports. I don't even know anymore. And when I reach for his hand under the table, sometimes he doesn't even notice. But I keep smiling, because that's what wives do, right? We keep the house warm. We keep the meals coming. We keep the peace. And somewhere along the way, we forget how to ask for what we need. I didn't plan to drift. I didn't wake up one day wanting more. It happened slow. So slow I didn't see it coming until I was already on the other side of wanting. The truth is, I started craving things I didn't even realize I'd lost. A look, a touch, a moment. To feel like someone saw me. Not as a mother, not as a wife, but as a woman. I wanted someone to remember that I still had fire in me. That I still laughed too loud when something was really funny. That I still danced in the kitchen when the right song came on. That I still had a heart that beat for more than just duty. But inside that house, I was fading. I cleaned the same counters, folded the same laundry, answered the same texts, cooked the same meals, kissed the same cheek, slept on the same side of the bed. And each day, a little more of me disappeared into the routine. There were moments I'd look in the mirror and not recognize the woman staring back. She looked tired. She looked lonely. I'd smile at her, fake it, try to remember what it felt like to be wanted, desired, chosen. But the truth always lingered in her eyes. I missed being seen. I missed being the reason someone's heart beat faster. I missed him, the version of Mark who used to grab my hand in public just because he could. Who used to write little notes on the bathroom mirror with toothpaste. Who used to kiss me like he didn't know when he'd get the chance again. I know life gets busy. I know people change. But I wasn't asking for flowers or grand gestures. I just wanted to feel like I mattered again. And when his birthday came up, something in me snapped. He said, "Don't do anything big. I don't care about birthdays." And maybe that was true. But I cared. Not about the celebration, but about what it meant. I wanted one night to feel close again. To feel like we were more than roommates. To create a memory that might spark something between us. Something real. So I planned something unexpected. Something unforgettable. But I never could have guessed how far it would go. And how much it would take for me. I thought I was rescuing our marriage. But maybe I was running from it. It started with a simple date on the calendar. Mark's 40th birthday. I noticed it while scrolling through my phone one night, lying in bed next to him. He was already asleep, or pretending to be. Either way, his back was turned. 40. A big number. A milestone. And part of me hoped it would mean something to him. That maybe this time, he'd look up and say, "Let's do something. Just us. Let's get away. Let's feel alive again." But when I brought it up over breakfast the next morning, he barely blinked. "Don't make a big deal out of it," he said, without looking up from his coffee. "It's just another year." I nodded, smiled, pretended to agree. But inside, something dropped. Because it wasn't just another year. It was another year of silence. Another year of distance. Another year where the most we shared was the same last name and a mortgage. A week later, I had lunch with Claire, my best friend since college. We don't get to see each other much anymore, but when we do, it always feels like home. She's bold, loud, funny in all the ways I'm not. She's the type of woman who says things most people only think. We were sitting at this little cafe downtown, sun pouring through the windows, glasses of wine in front of us. I told her about Mark's birthday, how he didn't want to celebrate, how I felt stuck, like I wanted to do something, anything, to shake the dust off us. And she laughed, this big, carefree laugh, and said, "Maybe you should get him a stripper or something. Break the mold. Shake things up." I laughed too. Loud at first, then softer. Because she was joking, obviously. But the idea stuck. Not the stripper part, not exactly. But the idea of doing something different. Something unexpected. Something that would wake us up. And later that night, while Mark watched the same rerun he always did, I found myself back on my phone. Googling. I typed in, "unique birthday surprises for husband." The first few were innocent. Weekend getaways. Hot air balloon rides. Private chefs. Massage packages. But then I found myself scrolling further, clicking on links I normally wouldn't. Discreet companionship. Luxury experiences. Personal entertainment. Each click made my heart beat a little faster. Not from fear, but from curiosity. From the sudden, sharp ache of possibility. I told myself I was just looking, just browsing. I wasn't planning anything. But the truth? I wasn't just thinking about Mark anymore. I was thinking about me. About what it would feel like to be a part of something exciting, dangerous, secret. I stared at one website for a long time. It was polished, classy, nothing seedy, just professional, elegant, even. There were profiles, photos, descriptions, discreet, experienced, respectful, a list of services, boundaries, options. I don't know how long I stayed on that page. My dinner got cold. The TV kept playing. And Mark never noticed I hadn't said a word in over an hour. Something shifted in me. Was this about his birthday? Or was I the one longing for excitement? I closed the tab, cleared my browser history, put my phone face down. But the thought stayed. And the next night, I went back. Not because I had a plan. Not yet. Just curiosity. That's what I told myself. Just curiosity. And that's when I started looking into it. Just out of curiosity. Or so I told myself. At first, it felt like a game. A little guilty pleasure after Mark went to bed. I'd wait until the lights were off, the dishes were done, and the house had that heavy silence that only happens after everyone else has fallen asleep, and then I'd pull out my phone. Just scrolling. Just looking. I told myself that. I'd browse through the profiles on these discreet sites, reading descriptions like they were stories in a magazine. Well-traveled, good listener, trained in massage, respectful of boundaries. Some were over the top, too flashy, too smooth. But others, they felt real, warm, thoughtful, and each one made my heart beat a little faster. I told myself it was for Mark. That I was planning a surprise. That I was being adventurous. Spontaneous. Fun. I wasn't cheating. I was planning a gift. But every night, I stayed on those pages just a little longer. Read just a little more carefully. Studied the faces, the words they used. The way they described themselves. Noticing not just what they offered, but how they made me feel. I'd start imagining the scenario. Would I lead him into a hotel room where someone was already waiting? Would it be a massage, a flirtation, a shared experience that brought us closer? Could something like that spark something between us again? Or was I just chasing something I couldn't name? The truth is, I stopped thinking about what Mark would want. And I started thinking about what I needed. Each night, it got harder to pretend I was doing this for anyone but me. And then came the guilt. Quiet, but sharp. Flashes of past moments started creeping in. Anniversaries Mark forgot. Nights he came home late with no explanation. Birthdays where the only gift I got was a tired, happy birthday, babe, and a reheated dinner. And worse, those mornings I stood in front of the mirror in lingerie, hoping he'd notice, and he didn't. He'd say he was tired. That he had a long day. That tomorrow would be better. Tomorrow never was. So I told myself this wasn't betrayal. It was survival. A way to feel alive again. To feel like I still mattered to someone. To feel wanted, even if only for a night. And then, I saw him. His name was Alex. His photo was simple, nothing too posed. A white shirt, sleeves rolled, kind eyes. He had that kind of face you could trust instantly. He wasn't the most handsome man on the site, but there was something in the way he looked at the camera, like he saw you. His description was different, too. He didn't talk about physical things. He wrote about connection, about listening, about creating a space where someone could just be. He mentioned cooking, music. He liked slow jazz, candlelight, long conversations. Said he didn't do anything that made someone feel out of control. That everything was mutual, respectful, meaningful. And I believed him. I don't know why, but I did. I started going back to his profile every night, reading it like it was a poem, imagining what he'd sound like, how he'd look at me, how it would feel to be in a room where someone was actually present. I began picturing the evening in detail. A hotel room, low lighting, a glass of wine, soft music in the background. Alex walking in, confident but kind. No judgment. No history. No wait. Just a moment. And I knew then. This wasn't about Mark anymore. It hadn't been for days. This was about me. And everything I had buried. All the feelings I had silenced. All the pieces of myself I had folded up and hidden away so I could be the good wife, the loyal wife, the wife who kept smiling. My hands were shaking. I could hear Mark in the other room, snoring gently, the same way he always did. And still, I couldn't stop myself. I stared at Alex's photo for what felt like forever. My thumb hovered over the screen. Heart pounding. I told myself I was still in control. That this didn't mean anything. That it was just an idea. But somewhere deep inside I knew. This was the line. And once I crossed it, I wouldn't be able to go back. I clicked book. Hands trembling. But not for him. For me. After I clicked book, there was no turning back. The confirmation email came within minutes. Short. Discreet. Professional. I stared at it for a long time, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Then, a message came through. It was from Alex. Polite. Calm. Not flirty. Not overdone. Just kind. Hi, Emily. Thank you for reaching out. I look forward to creating a meaningful experience for you and your husband. Let me know what you have in mind. He didn't pressure. Didn't assume. He waited. And that alone made my breath catch. I sat there, fingers hovering over the keys, unsure how to respond. This was supposed to be a surprise for Mark. A private birthday experience. That's what I told myself. But I didn't mention his name in the reply. Instead, I wrote back, I'd love to meet somewhere to talk through the details. Just to make sure we're on the same page. He responded instantly. Of course. I always prefer to meet beforehand. There's a quiet cafe near the park on 8th. I'll be there tomorrow at 2. Let me know if that works for you. And just like that, it became real. I didn't tell Mark. I just said I was meeting Claire. He barely looked up from his laptop. The next day, I stood in front of my closet like I was picking out armor. Not too much. Not too little. Something in between. This is just business, and I needed to feel alive today. I chose a soft blouse. Something that made me feel feminine. Like me. Not mom. Not wife. Just Emily. I got there 5 minutes early. Sat near the window. My hands were sweating. My chest tight. My mind a mess. And then, he walked in. Alex. He was taller than I expected. Dressed simply. No cologne, no flash, no ego. Just calm confidence. He smiled as soon as he saw me, like we were old friends. He sat down across from me, and the noise of the cafe seemed to fade into nothing. The way he looked at me, it wasn't hungry or scripted. It was present. He wasn't scanning the room. He wasn't checking his phone. He was just there. And I realized, in that moment, how long it had been since someone had looked at me like I was the only person in the world. We talked. Light at first. I was nervous, fumbling over words. But he had this way of making space. No judgment. No rush. He asked me what I wanted the experience to be like. I stumbled. I started with Mark. It's his 40th, I said. He doesn't like birthdays, but I thought something different might be good for us. Alex nodded. Didn't push. He asked me about tone, comfort levels, preferences. It was all very respectful. Professional. He listened. Really listened. But somewhere along the way, the conversation changed. He asked me about me. Not my husband. Not the event. Me. What I liked. What made me feel beautiful. What I hadn't felt in a long time. And I found myself answering. Honestly. Slowly at first. Then more freely. I told him things I hadn't said out loud in years. About feeling unseen. About the way silence can feel louder than shouting. About lying in bed beside someone and still feeling alone. And he didn't try to fix it. He just nodded. Like he understood. We talked for over an hour. I didn't even touch my coffee. At one point, his hand brushed against mine across the table. It was light. Accidental. But the electricity that shot up my arm was immediate. I pulled away instinctively. But my mind didn't. It stayed there. Lingering in the warmth of that touch. replaying it again and again. I reminded myself this was about Mark, that Alex was just playing a role, that I was still in control. But something had shifted. I had planned a surprise for my husband, a night to maybe bring us closer. But the real surprise was what Alex awakened in me. The day came faster than I expected. Mark's birthday. He didn't mention it that morning. Just got up, shaved, dressed, and left for work like it was any other day. I made his coffee. He kissed my cheek like he always did, barely there, just air and habit. But I had a plan. I told him I'd made dinner reservations for the evening, just the two of us, nothing big. He nodded, half smiled. Said, "Sounds nice." And that was it. He didn't ask questions. Didn't sense the shift in me. Didn't notice the trembling in my voice or the way my eyes wouldn't quite meet his. That afternoon, I checked into the hotel suite. Top floor. Soft lighting. Champagne already chilling on the table. Candles lined the windowsill. The bed turned down, robes folded neatly at the edge. It smelled like vanilla and something sweet I couldn't name. I stood in the middle of the room, staring at what I'd created. It looked beautiful, but it felt dangerous. I kept telling myself it was still a gift, a memory, a way to shake the dust off the life we'd let settle. At 7 p.m., I brought Mark to the hotel. He was surprised, in that quiet way he always was. His eyes moved around the room slowly. He smiled, touched the back of my hand. "This is really nice," he said. I handed him a drink, sat him down, and told him I'd arranged a private massage for him. Something special. "Just relax," I said. "It's all taken care of." And he believed me. Alex arrived 10 minutes later. Dressed in all black, clean, calm, professional. He nodded at me once, just enough to ground me, then walked over to Mark like this was just another session. I stepped out into the hallway. I told myself I needed air, that this was the moment to give space, to let it play out like I planned. But I didn't go far. I stayed by the door. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I pressed my hand to my chest, trying to breathe. And as I stood there, I started to remember Mark's face on our wedding day. The way he looked at me, like I was the only woman who existed. Our first dance. The way he whispered, "I can't believe you're mine." And then I remembered last week. Him scrolling through his phone as I sat across the table in a new dress. Him falling asleep in the middle of a sentence. Him forgetting the name of the song we used to call ours. A lump rose in my throat. I didn't know what I was doing anymore. I didn't know if this was fixing anything or just breaking it more. And then, the door opened. It was Alex. He stepped out, closed the door gently behind him. He looked at me, carefully, quietly, and asked, "You okay?" I didn't answer right away. I looked at him. Really looked at him. And I felt everything I'd been holding in for years begin to swell at once. "I didn't plan this for him," I whispered. My voice cracked. Tears burned in my eyes. I wanted it for me. I waited for shame to come. For disgust. For judgment. But none of it did. Alex didn't flinch. Didn't speak. He just stepped closer. Slowly. Gently. Like I was glass. And I didn't move away. His hand reached for mine, warm, steady. His eyes searched mine, not with lust, but with something deeper. Something that asked, "Are you sure?" And I was. I don't know how it happened, not really. One second I was standing there, telling myself this was wrong, that I still had time to undo it all. And the next. His lips were on mine. Soft. Certain. Like he had been waiting. I didn't stop it. I didn't even hesitate. We kissed in the hallway, just feet from where Mark lay inside, thinking this was all part of the experience I had planned for him. But it wasn't about him anymore. Not even a little. It was about the woman I used to be. The one who wanted to be seen. Held. Cherished. We didn't go far. Just enough. Just enough for my whole world to tilt on its axis. For my breath to catch in my chest. For the years of loneliness to finally unravel. That night, I crossed every line I once swore I'd never touch. I got home before Mark that night. I made sure of it. I drove with the windows down, trying to steady my breath, hoping the wind might carry away the scent of what I'd just done. But it clung to me. In my skin, in my chest, in the silence between every heartbeat. I walked into the house and everything looked the same. The dishes I left in the sink still sat there. The laundry basket still waited by the stairs. The hallway light flickered the way it always did. But nothing felt the same. Not inside me. Not anymore. Mark came home about an hour later. He was smiling. Not the polite, distant kind I'd gotten used to, but a real one. A full one. He looked relaxed. Lighter. Younger, even. He dropped his keys on the counter, walked over to me, and kissed my cheek. "That massage guy," he said. "Incredible." I nodded. Smiled faintly. Tried to laugh. Tried to breathe. Tried not to fall apart. He poured himself a drink and sat down beside me on the couch, closer than usual. I could feel the warmth of him, the familiarity, and suddenly it all felt foreign. Because I had cheated. Not just on Mark, but on everything I thought I believed about myself. The days that followed were strange. Mark started reaching for me again. Little things. His hand on my back as I cooked. A kiss on the forehead before he left for work. A text in the middle of the day that just said thinking of you. And the cruelest part? It almost felt like our marriage was healing. He was more present. More affectionate. He even talked about taking a weekend trip, just the two of us. It was like the distance between us had begun to close. But I wasn't there. Not really. I was somewhere else, floating just outside of myself, watching it all unfold like a movie I'd seen before. I smiled when I was supposed to. I laughed in the right places. But inside, I was drifting. Because every time he touched me, I remembered how it felt to be touched by someone who wanted me. Someone who saw me. Someone who didn't just go through the motions. And then, the messages started. "Alex." Simple at first. "Hope you're okay. Thank you for trusting me." And then, one night, you awakened something in me too. I stared at that message for a long time. My fingers hovered over the screen. I typed a reply. Deleted it. Typed another. Deleted again. I wanted to say I felt it too. That I hadn't stopped thinking about him. That I hadn't slept a full night since that hallway kiss. That part of me wanted to see him again, desperately. But I didn't send it. Instead, I deleted the thread. And then reopened it. Typed. Deleted. I was unraveling in silence. Mark didn't notice. Or maybe he did and didn't want to ask. Either way, he kept showing up with that new tenderness in his voice, that effort he hadn't made in years. And it made everything worse. Because now there was something to lose again. I started avoiding his eyes. In the kitchen. In bed. Even in the mirror when he stood behind me. He'd reach for me at night, and I'd flinched just enough for him to pause. But not enough for him to ask questions. He probably thought I was tired. Or moody. Or stressed. But the truth was darker. Every time he looked at me with gratitude, I felt the weight of what I'd done grow heavier. He thought I gave him a gift. A thoughtful, selfless surprise. But the cost of it is still unraveling. Some nights, I lie awake beside Mark and just watch him breathe. There's something about the way his chest rises and falls in rhythm, so steady, so sure, that makes me feel like I'm floating on borrowed time. He's peaceful now. Gentle in a way he hasn't been in years. Like something in him has softened, and something in me has hardened. And in that quiet, I start asking myself the questions I've been too afraid to say out loud. Was it cheating if it was just one night? My body says yes. My heart says yes. But my mind, it keeps looking for loopholes. Keeps whispering, you were lonely. You were empty. You just wanted to feel alive. But I did more than just want it. I let it happen. I chose it. And maybe the worst part is, it wasn't meaningless. That would have made it easier to forget. Easier to shove into the box of mistakes we all swear we'd never make. But it wasn't a mistake that came out of nowhere. It came from years of silence. Years of trying. Years of missing something I couldn't even name. So no, it wasn't meaningless. It meant something. And that's what keeps me up at night. Because if it had just been about sex, if it had just been about getting even, or getting attention, or doing something wild for the sake of it, maybe I could have buried it and moved on. But it wasn't about him. It was about me. And now, I can't escape that truth. I keep wondering, did I do it for love? Or did I do it just to feel seen? To feel like someone wanted me, not because I'm reliable or loyal or dependable, but because I'm desirable? Because I still have fire in me. Because I still have one in my skin. Because somewhere deep down, I was starving, and I didn't even know it until someone fed me. I think about telling Mark sometimes. In those moments where we're curled up under the same blanket, breathing the same air, pretending like everything's fine. I imagine whispering it. I need to tell you something. I picture his face shifting, his jaw tightening, the confusion in his eyes, the hurt that would follow, the betrayal, the questions. Why? Wasn't I enough? And the truth is, I don't even know how to answer that. Because it was never about enough. It was about being seen. It was about being chosen. It was about waking up from years of numbness and realizing I still exist. But if I told him, I know I'd lose him. And in some twisted way, just as he's coming back to me, just as he's opening his eyes again, I'd be the one to shut them. So I don't tell him. I keep the secret buried beneath soft kisses and long dinners. I match his warmth with silence. I return his "I love you" with a nod and a smile that hides 1,000 cracks. And yet, there's a part of me that still thinks of Alex. I never saw him again. We never met after that night. Never spoke. Never touched. Never crossed paths, not even once. But sometimes, when Mark brushes my hair behind my ear, or when I catch my own reflection in the bathroom mirror, I wonder, would he have chosen me? Not just for a night. Not just for a service. But for something real? Would he have seen the broken pieces and still reached for me? Would I have reached back? It's a question I'll never answer. A door I never dared open. But it lingers in the corners of my mind, like a song I can't forget. Like a scent that takes you somewhere you swore you'd never go again. I know what I did. I know what I crossed. I know what I risked. And I live with that every single day. Because part of me feels whole again. And part of me feels like I lost something I'll never get back. Have you ever done something with the best intentions and ended up breaking your own heart? You tell yourself it's for someone else. That it's kind. That it's thoughtful. That it's love. But deep down, you know, it's for you. It's to fill something empty. To answer a question you were too afraid to ask out loud. I didn't set out to betray anyone. I didn't wake up one day and decide to fall apart. But sometimes, the need to feel wanted can cloud everything. Judgment. Morality. Loyalty. If you've ever been in a situation where your craving for love, real love, made you do something you never thought you were capable of, I want to hear from you. Not because I need validation, but because I need to know I'm not alone. Because this silence, this guilt, it's heavy. And sometimes, I just need someone to understand without pointing a finger. So if you've been there, even in your thoughts, even in your dreams, tell me, tell us, share your story in the comments. Not for judgment, but for connection. Because somewhere out there, someone might be carrying the same weight and thinking they're the only one. And maybe, just maybe, hearing your story will let them breathe again. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold so you never miss a story that cuts deep, challenges your heart, and reminds us that life is never black and white. It's been months now. Seasons have changed. The leaves outside our window turned golden and fell, and still, the secret I carry hasn't moved. Mark is still here. Still mine. Still smiling like that night changed something for the better. And maybe it did. For him. But for me? Every birthday now comes with a shadow. I pretend to plan. Pretend to smile. Pretend that everything's okay. But underneath the laughter and the candles and the toasts, there's a quiet ache that never really goes away. Because I never told him. And I probably never will. Some truths are too sharp to share. Too jagged. Too final. So I hold it. In my chest. In my mind. In the space between us that still looks like love, but feels like something else. And I think about that line I crossed. How I swore I never would. How I used to judge people who did. How I thought I was different. But now I know. Sometimes the worst betrayal isn't the one you inflict on others. It's the one you never saw coming from yourself. The one that slowly unravels everything you believed about who you were. The one that stays, even after the moment passes, even after the door closes, even after life looks normal again. Because the truth is, my husband never found out what I gave him that night. But I'll never forget what it took from me.